We begin chapter 43. This is after we've completed discussing all that has relevance to Yitzis Mitzrayim, the exodus from Egypt. There's some specific statements which are mentioned throughout the Talmud regarding the redemption from Egypt. The Garsin b'B'Sarasota, Dosher b'Akiva, Reb Kiva had lectured in the merit of the righteous women of that generation. Nigalo Yisrael Mitzrayim, the Jewish people redeemed from Egypt. What did these righteous women do that was so special that in their merit we merited redemption? When they would go draw water, to take water out to the fields to their husbands, God would provide small fish that when they would draw the water, although fish were normally not in that location, fish would come into their pails or their small jugs, barrels. 50% was water, 50% was fish. And then they would put up 2 pots to cook. One pot was to cook up hot water. This, as we'll see, they went out to the fields to soothe their husbands' bodies, their feet, from being fatigued. And the other pot was cooked fish to feed their husbands. And they would transport these barrels, small barrels, out to the field to the husbands. They would wash their husbands' bodies because they were so broken and so fatigued. And they would soothe them, massage them. And they would feed them, and they would give them to drink the hot water. And then they would actually cohabit with them out in the fields. It's interesting, we're speaking about the building of the Mishkan. So the Torah tells us that one of the vessels in the Mishkan was the kior, was the laver. And the laver was made of copper and was made of maros hatzovos. The mirrors hatzovos, so Rashi says Chazal, that due to these mirrors, that's why we have the legions of Jews who left Egypt. Because if the women wouldn't have enticed their husbands, they took these mirrors and they would look in the mirror together to her husband, and she would say to her husband, who's more beautiful, who's more attractive, you or I? And they would arouse the husbands, and as a result of this, because the husbands lost any interest in procreating, they figured it's a lost cause, they despaired, they gave up. So it's due to the arousal of the women through the mirrors. That's the reason why they had interest. They were attracted and they procreated. So the reason why there were legions who left Egypt, the millions of Jews who left Egypt, was due to the women bringing out the water with the fish, with the mirrors, and enticing the men to them so they should procreate. That's Umashkasos in this cooking. It's interesting. So what was the righteousness? Not only that they cared for the husbands had no interest in that there should be a future. Klal Yisrael had to reach a critical mass before they left Egypt. We had 600,000 men above the age of 20. Besides, you had men and women and children. If the men are not procreating, you understand, we're not leaving Egypt. So who was the cause of the Gula? What was the cause of reaching that critical mass number? It was the women. So therefore Hashem feels indebted to the women to bring about the Gula. And not only that, as it says, Hashem says, allow my name to be obliterated in the water, because it's due to them there is a Klal Yisrael. It was not for the women, there would be no Jewish people, because the men weren't interested in continuing. What does that mean? Because they lied between the boundaries, the edges of fields. They were like furrows. They were concealed. Therefore, they merited the spoils of the sea. Interesting. They merited the spoils of the sea because they lied between the furrows in the field. The Gemara tells us, Rashi cites the Chazal, that the spoils of the sea was greater than the spoils they took out of Egypt. multiples more. It was from the spoils of the sea. They used that to build the Mishkan, because the enormous amount of wealth, it wasn't from what they borrowed from the Egyptians. The Midrash tells us that when the Jews left Egypt, there's a question, minimally each Jew had 10 pack animals, of donkeys loaded with gold and silver. In addition to that, they had the spoils of the sea, which was multiples of what that was. Shenemar, Kanfe Yona Nechbe B'Kesef. The wings of the dove, the clouds are compared to the dove. Vevrosel B'Yirakrak Chorutz, and their limbs, their parts, B'Yirakrak. Kevon Shemisabros. What happens when they became impregnated? Bos L'Bateyan, the women, they returned to their homes. The men were out in the fields. Came Chamigas Man Modudeyan, and when it was time to give birth, Holchos V'Yoldas Tachas Tapuach, they would give birth under the Tapuach. Tapuach doesn't mean an apple tree, it means an esrog tree. Shenema Tachas Tapuach or Aticho, under the Tapuach, you were aroused, you were awakened. Kodesh Baruch Hu Mishaleach. Now, but there's no midwife. The women, they're going out to give birth. It was miraculous. Kodesh Baruch Hu Mishaleach Mishemenakir Meshaper Osan Kechayim Shema Shaper Savlad. Hashem sent angels who would cleanse the child, open the passages of the child, beautify of the child, as if there was a midwife there. Shenemar Te'echo B'Yom Huladato Mazle Shnei Agulim, and he would present before them, this is similar to the mon, 2 round food items. Echot Shel Vash, one was honey. Echot Shel Shem, the other is oil. When the Egyptians realized what was going on, that the Jews are proliferating, multiplying, so they wanted to what? To destroy them. They went out to the fields to kill the children. So Hashem performed the miracle. This is Rabbi Akiva speaking. Miracle, they became absorbed in the earth. This is the Nazis. It was known that the Jews, when they left the ghettos, the Jews every Jew had some heirloom, silver, gold, and they buried it in the ground because they had in mind after the war they'd come back. Unfortunately, many did not come back. So they took iron spikes, the Nazis, and they pushed it into the ground because they figured how deep could have they buried it? And if it would hit something, they understood it hit pay dirt. That's what they did, Yamach Shemim, the Nazis. Of course, much of it was hidden, they didn't find. So they did the same thing. They came with plows that the children, they figured by plowing with this metal iron bar going into the ground, they tear the children. They'd kill them in the ground. That was the intent. And after the Egyptians would leave, they would actually blossom. They would sprout like a sprout out of the ground. The children would come out of the ground. They would proliferate. They would come out like the vegetation of the field. And once they would mature, they would come in flocks. The children would come back from the field in flocks to their homes. Meaning the mothers left. Hashem would provide all this care, and the children would come, and it's interesting, they would know exactly which home to go back to. Shenemar, Vatirbi Vatigdali. You increased, you matured, Vatavoi Badi Adoyim, Shodaim Nochonu, fully developed. Ushenigla Kodesh Baruch Hayam. So these children were exposed to miracle, to angels and to the Shekhinah. Kodesh Baruch provided all this. So when Hashem revealed himself at the sea, Heimi Kiru Tchilo, the children were the first ones to recognize Hashem, because they were already exposed to this previously. Shenema Zekil in Adeu, this is my God and I will extol him. It's interesting. The Gemara tells us in Nida that before a child is born, Hashem sends a malach to teach the child the Torah's entirety. and it says, there's a light which illuminates above the child's head, near Dolok Arosho, Romi Sofa Olawat Sofa. He sees, the child has clarity, he sees from one end of the world to the other. And the Malach teaches him the Torah in its entirety. So there's no question. The experience the child has has no relevance to this existence. Because everything in existence is what is limited, with limitation finite. He's literally, the in utero location is the equivalent of Olam Haba, the world to come. Everything is open, obvious. There are no barriers. Unlimited. He sees from one end of the world. He sees truth in its absolute context. But the child, before he's born, doesn't function as a physical being. His physicality is hooked up to the mother's. Once the child is born, then the child becomes an independent physical entity. The child forgets everything. The moment the child is born, that's the Malach touches the child on the mouth. That means the child's ready to come out. The child forgets everything, because now he's become a physical being. Here, in the physical context, these children, Hashem provided them in that within the context of physicality. Therefore, who are the first ones to recognize? The child, any one of us, we were exposed to the Shekhinah, to the Malach, but we don't remember. Because that was our neshama, not our bodies. But they, not only in soul, even in body, they were exposed to the Shekhinah. Hashem provided for them. So therefore, when it came to Zeh Kelim Anveyu, who were the first ones to recognize? The Shekhinah. These were these children who returned with flocks. Could you imagine telling it what's Gemara to some modernized Jew? That's a bunch of nonsense. Lahavdil. No. You mean I should take this as reality? Mm-hmm. Yeah. The year so-and-so made $6 billion in a week. Oh, that you get all excited about. That's reality. Yeah, you wish you could be the one to make that. HaMaimer Zenira Zormod, he says, the Maral says, this statement, this passage in the Gemara seems to be very unusual, very strange. Omna Pirzeh HaMaimer Yudua Kashetovin is Dvarenu, but he says, but the understanding of this passage, of this statement, is known if you understand what we have to say. I mean, if you understand something, it's not strange. A person's hooked up to a heart-lung machine. That looks strange. Yeah, it's strange if you don't understand what its function is. But you understand that is why the person's alive and keeps him alive. Otherwise, he doesn't stay alive. And there's no chance he continued to live. So he says, if you understand what we have to, our explanation, our words, then you'll understand what it says. Rabbi, it doesn't make sense. It makes sense, you don't understand. That's the reality. She'inyan hanesu dover bilti TV. What is miracle? Miracle is out of the realm of nature. Nature means natural. It's natural. Anything which is out of the ordinary is not natural. That's miracle. That's unnatural. We'll call it supernatural. That's miracle. V'yimtza dover echad binyan ma TV ubilti TV. Yachad. He says sometimes you find within the same context something nature is functioning, and within nature you find something which is unnatural. Miracle within nature. Therefore, afim hoyanimtza b'mateva k'moshu b'shar b'nei odom. They're born as normal children. Now, how does a child go into the earth? How do you survive it? Hoyanasa nes b'tzad bilti tivi. Hoyanivlon bekarka. They were actually swallowed up, absorbed in the earth. Varachnu b'zel lamaylo. K'moshiyimtza shoyamayim tivim liYisrael. Ubilti tivim. We spoke about the mark of dam, the blood. The same cup, the Egyptian drank from the cup, it was blood. The Jew drank from the blood, it was water. It was initially water. It remained water. So for the Jew it was natural. For the non-Jew, for the Egyptian, it was what? It was unnatural. You find many things simultaneously, natural and unnatural, are functioning simultaneously. Literally in the same location. Excuse me, Bazoro. It says in the Mishnah Pirkei Avos, one of the miracles that happened to Beis Hamikdash, Shoyu mishtachvim revochim. They stood pressed together. They were pressed to such a degree that if you lift up your feet, you'd be held up just by being squeezed between two people. But when they bowed, they prostrated themselves. There was 4 cubits. That's sufficient room to prostrate themselves. Yod nimtza tivi, kamo shehu, ubil tivi mishtachvim. Meaning the location they were. Where were they? If you measured the square footage of the Azara of the sanctuary, that was a reality. So that's natural. But within that natural setting, they were able to prostrate themselves, full length. So we had within a natural setting, you have something unnatural. And as I said, the walls didn't expand. So therefore, even though they were natural children, they were physical beings, like we are. But yet something unnatural happened, that they were absorbed in the earth. It was a miracle. You find the same thing. The Jews, right during Choshech, the Jews were able to see. The Egyptians couldn't see. How's that? Is there light? Is there no light? How's that possible? I mean, we say that they were absorbed in the ground, but nevertheless they retained their physicality. Why were they absorbed in the ground? Because if they wouldn't have been protected, the Egyptians were coming to kill them. Well, Yisrael hisnagdus min Mitzrayim. V'lo hoyes nagdus hazeh rak dove bilti tivi. Interesting. He says, you have 2 people who are physical beings, and they stand up against one another. They're both within the same plane. So therefore, there's an opposition. One is opposed to the other. The question is, who's going to be victorious over the other? Why is it a question? Because you're both on the same plane. What about if the person who's natural takes on an unnatural posture? There's no longer opposition. I exist now on another plane. Your plane is not my plane. We're a different plane. It's the Maral. Lo hoyes nagze rak dovi bilti tivi ki tivam ein hisnagdus v'akol b'shovi yach b'fi hateva u'lefichach lo hisnagdus hazeh rak bilti tivi. He's saying a little different. He says the only reason why they came to kill them because there was something unnatural. Kasher hoya belio bilti tivis. That's what he says. He says, I explain. Once they were absorbed in the ground, which is not natural. Lo nipsis nagdus lem. There's no opposition anymore. They were helpless. Well, really, because they were helpless. They were helpless because v'od kasher hevi nivlom bisnagdus bilti tivi ha bilti tivi gover ala tivi v'yoso elyon b'malo lo yochel lehem. Supernatural supersedes natural. V'yanes hazeh hu bilti tivi imasho yenishar ateva hu dover amiti main sofek. He says that's what you find within nature. You're able to have miracle affecting it simultaneously. He says vein laharch b'zerak bin tovin etz asher lefonecho. He says he doesn't want to speak about this concept anymore, but this is important, which he's about to present. True principles will reveal to you. Will reveal to you certain true concepts. Will reveal many things when you will understand the truth. He says, if you have difficulty understanding it, this is Zosasei, this is what you should do, and you'll be able to extricate yourself from this non-understanding. What is blio? Blio, absorption, is concealment. They became concealed from the Egyptians. When they removed and absorbed them, they were concealed. The Egyptians were opposed, they wanted to kill them. You know, one doesn't have a greater opposition in what? Than a person wanting to destroy the other. Kasher Hashem Yisrael histed rosom, achlum tzom nimstagdim shalhem. They couldn't locate. They couldn't locate them to kill them. Shlomo shein nistorim mikoch ha'elyon, shoy govrim al Yisrael. ודוב זה נקרא בליה בקרקום שהסתר הזה כאילו נברא באדמה שאין באודום להפסיד מכלולום. I think what he's saying is factually they didn't have to go into the ground. It means they were on another plane, they were concealed because in terms of their spiritual dimension. אבל אפשר לפעול בו האודום כרצון לאחרוש לזרוע ולא להפסיד בכלולום. The human being has the ability to plow, to plant, but not to destroy completely. He says, even though they couldn't kill them, but what did they do to these children? They were enslaved. They enslaved the Jews. So to the degree of enslavement, they were able to have the upper hand. But this idea of killing, that they weren't able to. They would bring the oxen and plow above them. What does the shore represent? Hashvorim hu hashibud b'koch godol. Now, ox is a beast of what? Is a work beast. You're able to what? To work it hard. But also, he says the ox is b'koch godol ki asher hu bal koach b'yosek asher yadua ki koach asher godol. The power of the ox is very great. And when they left, they would sprout out of the ground. What happens when you plow the ground? You activate the nutrients in the ground that it should give forth its strength. So plowing is not only to trap the seed under the ground. When you loosen the earth, you break the earth, there's an activity within the nutrients in the earth which will nourish and interact with the seed that's in the ground. But who's able to activate that? Only with the power of the ox, because the ox tears up the ground with his force. Ki adoma hi kosher. The earth is hard. Kasha ovdin also. Mizakin koshi chomer hadoma. When you plow it, what is it? You ever see a cultivated field? It's beautiful. Even. The earth is even. Why? Because you've softened it. Before it's hard, it's crusty. But once you've gone through with the ox or the plow, you've softened the hardness. That's the chomer, that's the earthiness of the earth. And once you've removed some of its earthiness, the hardness, now the earth gives forth its power. Maral says this elsewhere. Maral says earlier in the Divorce Hashem that we find they worked us avodas perach. The word prich means brittle. They worked us to the point that they destroyed us physically. Originally, they said they imposed the bondage, which was overwhelming hard work, to break them. Usually, what is a basis for a person to procreate? His physical health. So the more we wear you down, the less you're going to procreate. It was just to the contrary. The more they wore them down, the more they procreated. So what does that say? That our essence is not our physicality. Our essence is our spirituality. So the more you wore away the physical, the more blatant became our essence. So therefore the proliferation even increased. They multiplied into greater numbers. That's how the Maral explained it earlier. He's saying, as when you work the earth with the ox, you take away the hardness, the earthiness of the earth, and you make it refined. And because it's refined, it gives its ability, its power is released to be able to plant. Identically, the Jew, when you break away and you wear down the physicality, you lessen the material. that allowed the power to come forth stronger. And just to the contrary, they increased to a greater degree. Morale had brought a measure, an argument. It says they built Pisim and Ramses. There were cities that were faltering, and they rebuilt, they refortified them. So there's an argument. The Gemara, when they built, what's the whole idea of rebuilding these cities, these fortresses? So it was to prove a point. Paro held that the Jews are no different than any other nation. Kodesh Baruch Hu says they're different. They're not a physical people. Now, anything spiritual, as the principle Morale says many times, anything spiritual cannot be quantified. Anything in the physical realm is finite. So if it's finite, you could quantify it. Something which spiritual is unlimited can't be quantified. If we are a spiritual people, we cannot be quantified. Cannot be quantified. Even though you count numbers, but that's not who we are. You save one Jewish life, you save the whole world. What are you talking about? You have a productivity of what? Of 8 billion people. One Jew has greater value than 8 billion. So in what context are we speaking? In the spiritual, innate value. Right? So therefore, if you save one Jew, it's like saving a whole world. Because the Jew's value cannot be quantified. It's unlimited. Because it's spiritual. It says, as they afflicted him, they increased even more. They became more fruitful. So I was telling you about the fortified cities. So he cites a medrash. The medrash says that as they completed the city would crumple. Or the pyramids, or whatever these cities were, it would crumple. Why? Because Paro says, I'm going to quantify, who are you? You people who build pyramids, build fortified cities. That is your quantification. I mean, how do you evaluate a person? Based on his productivity. Kodesh Baruch says, that's not who my children are. Proof of the pudding, it collapses. It cracks, falls apart. Meaning, as much, and this went back and forth, I will prove it. Hashem says, you try to prove it. It's not going to happen. Because again, what was the thrust of Paro's decree? To prove his point that we're physical people like the rest of them. Hashem says, my people are not physical, they're spiritual. Okay? So all this he's saying is really an allegory. That the children went into the ground, they brought oxen to plow. No. The ox plowing it causes the earth to be more refined, it's less earthy. When you take away the earthiness of the ground gives forth greater bounty. When the person, you take away his earthiness, his physicality, his procreation increases. When they would return, they would actually sprout like the growth of the field. If the field is plowed well, things grow much more quickly. Based on the cultivation of land, that will determine how quickly the crop comes forth. Identically, this affliction that they afflicted him gave him a greater capacity to become fruitful and to multiply. Okay? It's interesting. What's the name of the Chofetz Chaim? The human mind, if you leave it fallow, right? What is it? It's nothing. But if you engage the mind, and especially if the mind has a potential, has great capacity, what grows from the mind? Endless level of understanding. Same field, you have a field, best quality soil. You have all the amenities that the field needs. But if you don't address it, you don't plow it, you don't cultivate it, you don't seed it, it's a clump of earth. That's all it is. So therefore, a person could be a phenomenal Talmud Chacham, but he has no interest in learning. So what happens to the mind? It's vacant. It's fallow. Nothing. But if you engage that mind, and the person has the interest, phenomenal things roll from that mind. Literally, it's like plowing the field. It's interesting. I mean, just to put it, to equate it, the mind, the brain, controls the body. What is the body? The body is physical. Body being physical, and the mind, that is one of its primary functions, that it controls the body. So therefore it has limitation. What's its function? To control the body. And the person is okay with that. But what about if you take it and you process something of another realm? Right? The mind, in terms of its essence, the brain, is for the body to function. I mean, there are other capacities. There's memory, there's processing, there's many other things. But the main, the neurological system, right? What is that? That's the physical body. Nothing to do with the understanding, retention, nothing with that. Okay? So what I'm saying is, so the mind basically is an earthy faculty. Earthy faculty. Of course, that controls the body. So what do you have to do to make it into a spiritual faculty? You got to cultivate it. You have to engage. At first, you don't understand anything. So, but you absorb the information. Omnam asher hu borur v'nochum, he says, however, this is absolutely correct and clear. Vasher amarnu malo ki hi b'liya hazos lo inyan bilti tivi k'mo she'isbayer. This is unnatural. Children should be absorbed into the ground. Masher amu b'shul noshim tzidkoni shebedor nigalu. Reb Kiva says, in the merit of the righteous women of that generation, we were redeemed from Egypt. Uremez nifla ma'od, hear this? It's an allusion to something which is wondrous, very wondrous. He writes ma'od twice. Ki kasher hoy mishtokigim ma'od hanoshim el balein. He says, when the women, they had the desire for their husbands, hoyoldos banim ruim l'cherus. They would have children which are what? Which are worthy. They're older children who are worthy of cherus. Where do we find that a woman who truly is dedicated to husband on an intimacy level, that she produces children which are worthy of gula? Damina perik be'elu mutorin amr Shmuel bar Nachman amr Yochanan kol odom shishto tovaso so have the bonim shefil b'dor shel Moshe Rabbeinu Lohoyo, that a woman who actually asks a husband to engage with her, sexually speaking, they will have children which even Moshe Rabbeinu's generation, such children didn't exist. Okay? And it says, I will take leaders of the tribes, Adkan. Yeah, we find, how did Yisachar come about? Torah tells us that Rochel, she wanted the mandrakes, which Reuven had. So Leah became upset with Rochel. He says, it's bad enough you're taking my husband. You can take the mandrakes. So what did Rochel say? You could have the night with our husband. Okay? So when he came back from the field, so Leah went out to inform Yaakov that it's her night, right? So he's saying, we find that a woman who goes and, although she maybe didn't say the words, but she alluded to it, she's going to have unusual children. And who was born from that? Yisachar. Yisachar was born from that, informing Yaakov that it's her night, because she purchased it. Shekvar Omarnu Loch Biprogam Harbi Meod Ki Ashibur Hu Lechoimer Bifrat Vatziru Hu Ben Chorin. Even when a person is enslaved, what's enslaved? The body's enslaved. But the tzura, the spiritual profile that the Jew possesses, is not enslaved. I mean, you may suffer because the body is being tortured, but in terms of the essence of the person, that's always a ben chorin. וכאשר הויסה אישה משתוקק אצל בעלו, הויה כאן השלומס החומר בצורה. וימליד בונם רואים לגולה. וכן מה שאומר והויה שמכירס בורן כשאומרו זה כלם והווה, it says that the splitting of the sea, these children, they recognize the Creator. הכל נמשך מזה ונשלו הויה להם פתיוס וסיכלוס החומר. Because these children, they were not exposed to the seductions and the foolishness of the physicality which causes us to be seduced. It says when they cohabited in the field, it was between the furrows. Whenever it was possible to procreate, they would procreate. When it says between, the word comes from word svas. Svas is an edge. Between the edges of the field, a furrow goes in. So they were like in a trench. The men and women, they procreate in trenches. That was an ultimate level of unity. Although the unity had to do with the sexual act, but factually at that moment, they were displaying a unity. Through the actual cohabitation of the couple, where they bond together physically, the child that ultimately will be conceived and born from this union, this child is not born as a physical being. אבל כאשר נחלק החיבור הזה, אז האיש החומריס נעשה ולד חומרי. מאחר שאין כאן הסאחתוס, דובו כחומר בצורה. The way I understand it is like this, maybe, that the Maral says, the mission tells Pirkei don't speak excessively to a woman. Even to your wife. Don't speak excessively. So even to your wife, definitely to someone else's wife. And ultimately a person could end up being Yorish Gehenim. It could affect the person. Now, he explained over there that a woman versus a man is more spiritual than a woman. A woman is more physical, more earthy. As a woman's attractive, that's what a child is conceived and gestates in the mother, not in the man. The man represents more of the intellect, the understanding, the spiritual. So if the man exposes himself excessively to the woman, how is it going to affect him? It's something which is not his makeup. Therefore, it's going to affect him negatively, and he's going to be affected by this. Okay, 1 second. So he says, when the woman, during the act of cohabitation, what's happening to the woman? The woman's is bonding with the man. What is the man? The man is more spiritual. Therefore, the child that's born from that union or conceived is a special child. It's a special. Why? Because conception is during the union. Then they separate. Now the child starts, after conception, starts growing, starts gestating in the womb of the mother. Now the child is all by himself with the mother. Now that child is going to assume a physical context, not a spiritual context. That's what he's saying. Because now it's the woman by herself. He says, they would cohabit when it was possible. They had the ultimate act of unity. And what is that? That's the zivug aspect. I told you, Mispashai means svas, the edges. All the edges of the field, they all come together there. haben nolad. Okay? כי מסחבר החומר בצורה כמו שהסבר למעלה, כאשר נחלק החיבור הזה, what about when they separate? אז האישה חומריס, the woman goes back to her earthly state, מנסה ולד חומרי, מאחר שאין בו הסאחדוס, דיבוק החומר בצורה. Okay? I think I'm going to stop.